The alarms did not scream. They whispered. That was how the taking began. On the frozen moon of Illyria 9, the sky cracked open without thunder. A shadow slid across the snowfields, silent and smooth, like a blade over white skin. By the time the villagers looked up, it was already too late. The raiders had learned. Noise warned prey. Silence broke them. Scylla felt it before she saw it. A pressure in her chest. A wrongness in the air. She turned just as the ground beneath the village gates folded inward, metal claws punching through ice and stone. Figures poured out, tall, jointed, wrapped in black armor that drank the light. The Virex Syndicate had arrived. Panic exploded. Scylla ran. She was not a warrior. Not yet. She was a translator, barely past her coming rites, her silver-blue skin still unmarked by clan scars. Her world had always been cold, but gentle. The Illyrian people survived by balance, not force. That balance shattered in seconds. Energy bolts carved lines of fire through snow huts. The air filled with screams and the smell of burning crystal. Scylla's parents pushed her forward, shouting words she would never hear again. She turned once, just once, and saw them fall. The sound never left her. She grabbed her little sister's hand. Kira. Too small. Too light. Too slow. They ran across the ice flats, breath tearing from their lungs. Behind them, laughter echoed, metallic, distorted, cruel. The Virex hunted for profit, not conquest. Living captives were worth more. A blast hit the ground between them. The ice split. Kira slipped. Scylla's fingers burned as they lost their grip. She screamed her sister's name as a Virex enforcer lunged forward, lifting Kira effortlessly with one armored arm. The child screamed once before a stun field snapped shut around her body. Then she was gone. The ship rose. The silence returned. Scylla collapsed. The cold finally reached her bones, but it was nothing compared to the emptiness tearing through her chest. Her village was ash. Her family was gone. Her sister was taken. And the galaxy would forget them by morning. That was when the second ship arrived. It did not hide. It cut through the clouds with raw force, engines roaring like a challenge thrown at the universe itself. The hull was scarred, mismatched, painted in dull grey with no markings of pride or fear. It landed hard, crushing ice beneath its weight. A ramp dropped. A human stepped out. He was tall, wrapped in layered armor patched more times than Scylla could count. His helmet was off. His face was marked by old burns and newer scars. His eyes, dark, focused, took in the destruction in seconds. Captain Elias Vaughn had seen this before. He knelt beside Scylla without hesitation. "You're alive," he said. "Not a question. A fact." She looked at him through blurred vision. Humans were myths here. Loud. Emotional. Dangerous. "They took her," Scylla whispered. "My sister." Elias's jaw tightened. "Who?" "The Virex." The name carried weight. Criminal syndicate. Slavers. Protected by distance and fear. Elias stood. Then he did something no Illyrian expected. He opened a channel. "All units," he said calmly. "We have a live abduction by the Virex Syndicate. Civilian minor. Cold world species. I'm engaging." A pause. Static. Then a voice answered. "Captain, command advises." "I didn't ask," Elias said. He closed the channel. Scylla stared at him. "You'll die," she said. "Maybe," he replied. "But they'll remember me." He offered his hand. For a moment, Scylla hesitated. Humans were chaos. Stories said they made problems worse. That they burned bright and burned out. But this one stayed. She took his hand. Inside the ship, warmth wrapped around her like a lie she wanted to believe. Medical lights scanned her injuries. Elias moved with practiced speed, already plotting routes, pulling data from hidden networks. "You don't know where they took her," Scylla said. "I will." The Virex erase trails. "So do humans," he replied. The ship lifted off before the smoke from the village had settled. As the stars stretched into lines, Elias spoke again, quieter this time. "They took my brother," he said. "Different syndicate. Long time ago." Scylla looked at him. "I never found him," he continued. "But I learned how they think. How they move. How they get careless." He met her gaze. "We'll get your sister back." The Virex Syndicate did not fear the Illyran. They had never learned to fear humans. Hours later, deep in unregistered space, a Virex transport drifted in false silence. Inside, Kira lay trapped in a containment field, eyes wide, breath shallow. Around her, other captives cried softly. The crew laughed. They did not see the human ship power down its engines and coast in cold shadow. They did not detect the signal Elias released, a tight burst of noise that rewrote sensor data and convinced the transport it was alone. Humans called it lying to machines. Elias armed himself. No speeches. No glory. Just purpose. Scylla watched from the co-pilot seat as he sealed his helmet. Fear twisted inside her, sharp and heavy, but beneath it was something new. Something dangerous. Hope. The human ship latched onto the Virex hull with a violent shudder. Boarding clamps locked. Elias checked his weapon once, then turned to her. "Stay here," he said. Scylla shook her head. "She's my sister." Elias paused. Then nodded. "Then stay behind me." The hatch blew open. Cold, darkness, alarm screaming too late. The first Virex guard turned just in time to see a human moving faster than logic allowed. Elias did not roar. He did not hesitate. He struck with precision, using walls, gravity, fear itself as weapons. Scylla followed, heart pounding, watching the impossible unfold. Humans were smaller, weaker, outnumbered. Yet the Virex fell back. Because humans did not fight to win. They fought to end things. The transport shook as systems failed one by one, not from brute force, but from sabotage. Elias disabled doors, reversed gravity, cut power only where it mattered. The ship became a trap. They reached the holding chamber. Scylla saw Kira. Alive. She screamed her sister's name as Elias tore the field apart with a device built from spare parts and stubborn will. Kira collapsed into her arms, shaking, crying, real. The alarms wailed louder. Elias turned. Time to leave. They ran. Behind them, the Virex ship spiraled out of control, systems fighting ghosts that humans had taught them to see. As Elias's ship tore free and jumped to light speed, the transport detonated in silent space. The galaxy did not notice. But the Virex did. Scylla held her sister, tears freezing on her cheeks as the stars rushed past. She looked at the human who had defied fear, law, and reason for someone he had never met. "Why?" she asked. Elias did not look back. "Because someone has to stand up," he said. "And humans are very bad at staying down." Far behind them, in the dark lanes of space, a message spread through criminal networks. A warning. A human had interfered. And nothing scared the galaxy more than that. The Virex did not forgive. They did not forget. Across the outer trade lanes, whispers spread faster than official alerts. A transport lost. A crew erased. Captives taken back by a single human ship flying without registry or fear. At first, the Syndicate laughed it off. Ships were lost every cycle. Crews failed. Luck turned. Then patterns appeared. Sensor ghosts. Sabotaged jump points. Silent kills without warning. And always the same mark left behind in corrupted data streams. A human signature. Inside the grey ship, the mood was heavy but alive. Kira slept curled into Scylla's side, sedated and warm. Her small chest rose and fell in steady rhythm. Every breath felt like a victory. Scylla had not let go of her since the rescue. Elias stood at the navigation console, fingers moving fast, rewriting their course again and again. He did not fly in straight lines. Humans rarely did when danger followed. "They'll hunt us now," Scylla said quietly. "They already are," Elias replied. The ship shuddered as it slipped through a microjump, emerging far from mapped lanes. Space here was thin and dark, stars scattered like broken glass. No trade beacons. No patrols. Perfect. Elias turned and crouched beside Kira, checking the readings on his wrist unit. Her vitals were stable. No implants. No permanent damage. They didn't have time, he said. We moved fast. Scylla nodded, but fear still clung to her. The Illyrian had lived quietly for generations. They believed survival came from staying unnoticed. Humans believed something else. How many of them will come? She asked. Elias stood. Enough. As if summoned by the word, the ship's threat scanner pulsed red. Multiple contacts. Virex hunters. They dropped out of folded space like knives thrown from darkness. 3 attack craft, long and angular, built for speed and terror. Their weapons warmed instantly. Scylla's breath caught. Elias did not slow. Strap in, he said calmly. The human ship surged forward, not away, but toward them. The first Virex pilot hesitated. That pause cost him everything. Elias cut engines mid-charge, letting inertia carry them as he dumped decoy signals in all directions. The Virex targeting systems screamed with false data. One ship fired too early. Another fired too late. Elias reignited engines sideways. Space twisted. The human ship slid between energy blasts that should have killed them, its hull scraping the edge of destruction. Elias grinned, not with joy, but with focus. Humans don't fly clean, he muttered. We fly mean. He triggered something small and ugly. To the Virex, it looked like debris. It wasn't. The device latched onto the lead hunter's hull and began whispering lies into its systems. Heat spikes. Phantom damage. False collision alerts. The Virex pilot panicked. He turned into his own allies' firing line. The explosion lit the void. The remaining 2 ships pulled back, regrouping. Smarter now. Angrier. Scylla watched in disbelief as Elias moved like the chaos itself bent around him. He was not stronger. Not faster. Just prepared. But numbers mattered. A new signal appeared. Bigger. A Virex command cruiser emerged from fold space, its presence heavy and deliberate. This one did not rush. It waited. Elias's jaw tightened. That's a problem. The cruiser opened a channel. Human, a distorted voice said. Return the cargo. Elias laughed once. Sharp. Humorless. She's not cargo. You interfere with commerce, the voice continued. You will be erased. Elias cut the channel. Scylla felt fear spike again, but beneath it something else stirred. Anger. Resolve. They'll never stop, she said. No, Elias agreed. They won't. The human ship jumped, not to escape, but to hide. They vanished into the shadow of a dead planet, its surface cracked and lifeless. The Virex cruiser followed slowly, methodically. Hunters spread out, sealing exits. Scylla realized the truth then. Elias had not saved them. He had started a war. Inside the ship, Elias opened sealed compartments Scylla hadn't known existed. Tools. Devices. Things that did not look like weapons but made her uneasy. What are you doing? She asked. Calling friends, he said. He transmitted a tight band signal, old, coded, human. Minutes passed. Then the darkness answered. Human ships dropped into space one by one. Not sleek fleets. Not matching designs. Salvaged hulls. Civilian frames turned dangerous. Old military wrecks rebuilt with stubborn hands. They formed no formation. They didn't need one. The Virex cruiser hesitated for the first time in its long, violent life. Scylla stared. Who are they? She whispered. Elias smiled faintly. People who don't like bullies. The human ships moved. Not in unison. Not with grace. Each fought differently, unpredictably. One released clouds of reflective dust that blinded sensors. Another cut power and drifted dead until it rammed a hunter at full burn. A third transmitted music, loud, chaotic noise that overwhelmed targeting systems. The Virex tried to adapt. They failed. Because humans didn't follow rules long enough to be predicted. The battle was short. Brutal. Final. When it ended, the Virex cruiser fled, engines screaming as it tore a hole in space to escape. The hunters were gone. Silence returned, this time earned. Scylla sank into her seat, trembling. Kira stirred, waking slowly, confused but safe. Around them, the human ships lingered briefly. No cheers. No speeches. Then they vanished. Elias watched them go. Will they come back? Scylla asked. Yes, he said. When? When they think it's safe, Elias replied. Which means never. He turned to her. The Virex marked your people because they thought no one would care. Scylla looked at her sister. At the human who stood when the galaxy looked away. What happens now? She asked. Elias met her gaze. Now, he said, we make sure they learn the cost of being wrong. Far away, deep in Virex territory, alarms began to sound. Not whispers this time. Screams. The galaxy reacted slowly. It always did. Trade lanes reopened. Patrol reports were rewritten. Insurance boards classified the losses as unfortunate disruptions. To most of the civilized systems, the destruction of a few Virex assets meant nothing. Crime syndicates burned and regrew all the time. But fear traveled faster than paperwork. In hidden ports and shadow markets, the name Elias Vaughn began to circulate. Not as a hero. Not yet. As a problem. A human who did not negotiate. A human who did not retreat. And worse. A human who inspired others. Inside the grey ship, recovery came in fragments. Kira woke fully 2 cycles later, weak but alive. She clung to Scylla as if letting go might make the universe steal her away again. Scylla did not push her. She stayed close, speaking softly, telling stories of snowfields and skylights, of home as it once was. Elias listened from a distance. Humans understood loss differently. They learned early that pain did not fade. It only learned to wait. He gave the sisters space, but he did not slow the ship. They moved constantly, slipping through forgotten routes, hiding between gravity wells and debris fields where sensors struggled. You can drop us anywhere safe, Scylla said one cycle, standing beside him at the viewport. Elias shook his head. There is no safe, he replied. Not anymore. Scylla knew he was right. The Illyrian had been marked. Quiet races always were, eventually. The only difference now was that the Virex had failed once. They would not fail twice. A new message arrived as they crossed into a neutral sector. Encrypted. Human-coded. Elias frowned as he read it. They've called a bounty council, he said. Scylla's breath tightened. On you. On her, Elias replied, nodding toward Kira. The Virex wanted their mistake erased. Proof destroyed. They wanted to show the galaxy that humans could bleed like anyone else. Kira looked up at them, sensing the tension. They're coming, aren't they? The child asked quietly. Scylla knelt, forcing a calm she did not feel. Yes. But we're not alone. Kira looked at Elias. You won't leave. No, Elias said without hesitation. The ship altered course. Toward conflict. They arrived at Port Hestia, a massive, lawless station carved into an asteroid belt. No flags flew here. No species claimed ownership. It was where rules went to die and deals were born. If the Virex wanted to send a message, this was where they would do it. Elias docked openly. That alone drew attention. Eyes followed them as they moved through the station. Mercenaries, smugglers, information brokers. Word spread fast. A human with an Illyrian child. A bounty whispered to be worth fleets. Scylla felt it then. The pressure. The same wrongness she had felt before the village fell. She turned. Virex. Not soldiers this time. Contractors. Hunters. Too many to count. They moved to surround. Elias stopped walking. "Stay behind me," he said quietly. Scylla obeyed, heart pounding. The lead hunter stepped forward, weapon lowered but ready. "Hand over the child," he said. "This doesn't have to end badly." Elias removed his helmet and clipped it to his belt. "It already did," he replied. The station lights flickered. Then everything exploded into motion. Humans emerged from everywhere. Dock workers dropped tools and raised weapons. Traders sealed blast shields and opened hidden compartments. A bartender vaulted the counter, firing with both hands. The station itself turned hostile. Elias had not come alone. This was not a fleet. It was a community. The Virex hunters panicked. They had expected fear. Submission. Silence. They got resistance. The firefight tore through the docking ring. Not clean. Not orderly. Humans fought in bursts of chaos, using cover that shouldn't exist, angles that shouldn't work. They shouted warnings to each other, dragged the wounded clear, improvised weapons from scrap. They fought like survival was personal. Scylla shielded Kira as Elias moved like a storm given purpose. He did not charge. He dismantled. One hunter disarmed. Another trapped behind ceiling bulkheads. Another lured into an airlock and spaced without ceremony. The Virex retreated. Too late. Port Hestia's internal systems locked down, trapping the hunters inside. Human ships undocked en masse, forming a loose ring around the station. From 100 sources, the same message broadcast across open channels. No more. The Virex Council heard it. And for the first time, they responded not with threats, but with caution. Elias stood in the aftermath, smoke drifting through the shattered dock. He was bleeding. Not badly. Enough to remind him he was human. Scylla approached him. "They'll escalate," she said. "Yes," Elias replied. "That's the point." Kira looked around at the humans, strangers who had fought for her without question. "Why did they help?" she asked. Elias knelt so they were eye level. "Because once," he said, "someone helped them." The galaxy noticed this time. Footage leaked. Stories spread. A narrative took shape that the Virex could not erase. Humans were not conquerors. They were not saviors. They were answers. And answers scared those who lived by taking. Far away, in fortified Virex space, decisions were made. Fleets were mobilized. Plans rewritten. The next move would not be subtle. Scylla watched the stars from the ship's viewport as they departed Port Hestia. She held her sister's hand. For the first time since the night of fire and snow, the fear did not own her. "Elias," she said. "Yes. If this becomes a war." He did not look away from the stars. "It already is." The human ship jumped. And the galaxy leaned closer, because something had changed. Humans were no longer reacting. They were coming. The Virex answered the old way. With fire. Entire outer settlements vanished in a single cycle. Neutral convoys were seized and stripped. Broadcasts flooded the networks. Cold, deliberate warnings meant to restore fear. The message was clear. This is what happens when humans interfere. The galaxy watched. And waited to see if humanity would break. Inside the grey ship, Elias studied the incoming reports in silence. Scylla stood beside him, her expression hardening with each new loss. Kira no longer cried at the images. She watched, quiet and alert, learning too early how cruelty shaped the stars. "They are baiting us," Scylla said. "Yes," Elias replied. "And they think we'll charge blindly." He changed the display. What appeared was not a fleet, but a web, dozens of human-operated vessels spread across multiple systems. Civilians. Traders. Retired soldiers. People who had nothing in common except refusal. "We don't fight like them," Elias continued. "We don't meet force with force." Scylla understood. "We make them chase ghosts." The plan unfolded without ceremony. Human ships vanished from predictable routes. False distress calls appeared and disappeared. Virex patrols arrived to find empty space and corrupted logs. Supply depots failed due to accidents. Jump gates misaligned by fractions too small to detect until it was too late. The Virex burned fuel and patience. Humans burned time. And time was something humans had learned to weaponize. On the world of Khan's Reach, a Virex strike group descended to make an example. The settlement was small, defenseless, perfectly chosen. They never reached orbit. Human drones, old, patched, nearly invisible, detonated inside their formation. Not with force, but with confusion. Sensors screamed nonsense. Friend or foe systems collapsed. Ships fired on echoes and shadows. Then the humans arrived. Not in one wave. In hundreds of tiny decisions made at once. Elias led from the edge, never central, never obvious. He coordinated chaos like a language. Each human ship acted independently, yet together they moved like a living thing. The Virex formation shattered. News spread. The galaxy began to understand something terrifying. Humans were not unified by command. They were unified by choice. Scylla watched the feeds as entire syndicate routes fell apart. "They are losing control," she said. "They never had it," Elias replied. But victory carried a price. A Virex counterstrike slipped through. They hit a human refugee convoy, slow ships, families aboard. Elias arrived too late to stop the first wave. The images burned themselves into memory. He said nothing. He did not shout. He transmitted a single message across every human channel. "We end this. Now." The response was immediate. Not cheers. Coordinates. The Virex home hub, hidden, armored, believed unreachable, lit up on human maps. It was not a capital. It was worse. A marketplace. Everything the Virex stole passed through there. Elias stared at it for a long moment. "This is where it stops," Scylla said softly. "Yes," Elias agreed. "Or it stops us." They jumped. The hub was a fortress of moving parts, ships docking and leaving constantly, shields layered and redundant. Virex defenders laughed when the first human ships appeared. Then the laughter died. Because the humans did not attack the hub. They attacked everything else. Trade routes collapsed. Escort fleets vanished chasing false signals. Power grids destabilized from inside, sabotaged by software written by humans who had once fixed civilian systems for a living. The hub stood alone. Elias led the final approach. Scylla sat beside him, steady now, no longer the survivor from the snowfields but something harder, sharper. "What happens after?" she asked. "That depends," Elias said. "On whether they learn." They breached the hub without firing a shot. Human engineers rewrote doors. Human pilots docked where no docking port existed. Human fighters moved through corridors with grim efficiency. The Virex leadership was cornered. Not executed. Exposed. Elias opened every channel. Every recording. Every ledger of stolen lives and broken worlds. He broadcast it openly, uncensored, undeniable. Then he spoke. "You wanted silence," he said. "You got attention instead." The galaxy listened. Sanctions followed. Bounties reversed. Allies vanished. The Virex syndicate did not fall in flames. It collapsed under light. When the fighting ended, the hub still stood, but empty, stripped of power and purpose. Scylla found Elias on the observation deck afterward. He looked older. Tired. "You could have destroyed it," she said. "Yes," he replied. "But fear only teaches fear." She nodded. Kira joined them, looking out at the stars. "Is it over?" Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "It's finished," he said. "Which is different." The ship turned away from the hub. Behind them, a chapter closed. Ahead of them, something new waited. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Humans did not need permission to stand up. They only needed a reason. The galaxy did not return to normal. It adjusted. Trade resumed, but routes shifted away from old power centers. Patrols flew closer together. Small worlds that had once stayed silent began to speak. Not loudly, carefully, but they spoke. Because they had seen what happened when silence broke. The grey ship drifted through open space. No alarms, no pursuit. For the first time since Illyria 9, Scylla felt the tension in her chest ease. Not disappear, but loosen enough to breathe. Kira laughed for the first time in many cycles. It was a small sound, light and uncertain, but it froze Scylla in place. She turned slowly, afraid the moment might vanish if she moved too fast. Kira was playing with a piece of scrap Elias had shaped into a spinning star, its edges catching the light as it turned. Scylla covered her mouth. Elias noticed. He said nothing. Humans understood moments like this. You didn't interrupt them. You protected them. Later, when Kira slept, Scylla joined Elias in the cockpit. The stars slid past in quiet rhythm. No mission alerts. No enemy signatures. Just space. What happens to us now? Scylla asked. Elias leaned back in the pilot's chair, thinking. That depends on what you want. I don't have a world anymore, she said. You have a future, he replied. She considered that. The Illyrian believed in cycles, loss followed by renewal, winter followed by light. But cycles only mattered if someone survived to see them turn. There are others like us, she said. Survivors. Children taken. Worlds too small to fight back. Elias nodded. I know. They didn't say the word, but it hung between them. Purpose. The message arrived an hour later. Not encrypted. Not hidden. A simple request for help, broadcast wide and unprotected. A mining colony on the edge of mapped space. Raiders. No defenses. Children missing. Scylla felt the old fear rise. Elias felt it too. He didn't hesitate. The ship changed course. They arrived too late to prevent the attack, but not too late to change the ending. The raiders scattered when the human ship appeared, not because it was powerful, but because of what it represented now. Stories had reached even this far. A human ship that did not ask permission. A human who did not walk away. Elias coordinated evacuation while Scylla helped treat the wounded, her translator skills easing panic, her presence proof that survival was possible. Kira stayed close, watching everything, learning. Afterward, the miners thanked them. Offered supplies. Offered to spread the word. Elias refused payment. Just remember, he said. And help the next one. Word spread anyway. Not of battles. Of choices. Humans began appearing where they weren't expected. Not as conquerors. Not as rulers. As variables. As people who changed outcomes simply by refusing to accept them. Some governments were uneasy. Others quietly relieved. Criminal networks adapted, or vanished. The galaxy learned a second lesson. Humans did not replace systems. They broke the ones that didn't work. Time passed. Not in peace, but in motion. Scylla trained with human crews, learning tactics, logistics, how to think sideways. She discovered that human strength was not rage, but flexibility. When something failed, they didn't stop. They tried again. Differently. Kira grew stronger. Smarter. Less afraid. She asked questions no one could answer and accepted that anyway. One night, as the ship drifted between assignments, Scylla stood alone at the viewport. The stars felt less cold now. Still distant. Still dangerous. But not hostile. Elias joined her. You ever think about stopping? She asked. He considered it honestly. Sometimes. What keeps you going? Elias looked out into the dark. Because if I stop, someone else won't get help in time. Scylla nodded. She understood that weight now. A signal came in. Unusual. Not a distress call. An invitation. A council of small world representatives wanted to meet. Quietly. Off record. They didn't ask for protection. They asked for guidance. How to survive, Scylla said softly after reading it. How to resist without becoming monsters, Elias replied. They accepted. The meeting took place on a neutral station, far from power blocks. Dozens of species attended. Some afraid. Some angry. All listening. Elias did not give a speech. Scylla did. She spoke of Illyria 9. Of silence. Of what it cost. She spoke of humans, not as saviors, but as proof that standing up did not require permission or perfection. You don't need to be strong, she said. You need to refuse. The room stayed quiet long after she finished. When they returned to the ship, Kira ran ahead, laughing as the doors slid shut behind her. Elias watched her go. She's going to change things, he said. Scylla smiled. So are you. He shook his head. No. I just started something. The grey ship lifted off once more, engines humming steady and unafraid. It did not fly toward glory or peace. It flew toward need. Somewhere, another alarm whispered instead of screamed. Somewhere, someone was about to be taken. And somewhere in the dark, a human ship was already turning. Because the galaxy had learned the truth too late to ignore it. Humans were not a phase. They were a response. And once they began to stand up, they didn't sit back down.